All right. Shalom. My name is Yadon Yasharal. I'm with my brother Yonatan Yasharal. Shalom Ak. And we are in our Bible study, our weekly Bible study that we do. The title of today's study is Women of Wisdom Part 2. Women of Wisdom Part 2. And what we did in Part 1 over the Shabbat was we went into Eve and her creation and her responsibility and when she was brought into the garden and the meaning of garden as far as being a hedge in Eden, a hedge protected garden, and how her relationship was to her husband to help them tend and take care of until that garden. We also went over some very profound Hebrew sisters. We went over Judith, which was a really good story about her and what she did. We went over Ruth, the Moabitess and her righteousness, that it doesn't just, the spirit of righteousness is not trademarked to only Yasharal alone. Yahweh can put that spirit on anybody that wants to follow the righteousness of his son, which is his word. So we're going to pick up and we're going to go into some more righteous women, and we're going to at this point get some examples of some women that weren't so righteous and how that affected their households and themselves. So we're going to open up first, and we're going to look at a good example of a marriage and submission to a husband, but yet a submission to the Most High. The supreme submission is to the Most High over a submission to a husband. Righteousness is your number one priority. Your husband is to submit to him as well. But at the end of the day, pertaining to life and death and salvation type issues, Yahweh override that. Yahweh gave her that supreme overriding because the husband is supposed to be following that law as well. But the woman should seek to first be submissive to her husband by any means possible, as long as it doesn't cause her to be in bad favor with the Most High, because then she can't help her husband. She can't help her family. So let's open up in 1 Samuel chapter 25, and we're going to look at Abigail. 1 Samuel chapter 25, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
1 Samuel 25 and verse 1. And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him, and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Moab whose possessions were in Carmel, and the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding, and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil, and in his doings he was in the house of Caleb.
And he was of the house of Caleb. So Nabal, he was a very evil man, and he was obviously a successful man. He had a great wealth of property, but he didn't have the spiritual treasures. And anytime you go in here and you want to pick biblical names, don't just pick a name because it's in the Bible and think that it's a good name. You definitely want to look at what the definitions of these names are. Perfect examples are also with Ruth, her son-in-laws, or not son-in-laws, her sons' names. If you look at the definition of those names, they might sound like real cool names, but you might want to look at what that name means. And so we're going to get into the meaning of that name in a minute. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. And David sent out 10 young men, and David said unto the young men, Get you up to Carmel, and go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus shall you say to him that lives in prosperity, Peace be both to you, and peace be to your house, and peace be unto all that you have. And now I have heard that you have shearers. Now your shepherds which were here with us, we heard them not, neither was there anything missing unto them at all the while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will show you. Wherefore let the young men find favor in your eyes, for we come in a good day. Give, I pray you, whatsoever comes to your hand unto your servants and unto your son Dawid. And when Dawid's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all those words in the name of Dawid, and ceased. And Nabal answered Dawid's servants and said, Who is Dawid? And who is the son of Yesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed from my shearers and give it unto men whom I know not where they be?
So, first of all, it ain't like he ain't know who Dawid was. They got a song about this brother, that he killed tens of thousands. So you know who he is. You know the story. You know he slayed Goliath. You know that he was anointed by the prophet that just passed away, Shemuel. And you know that he's being persecuted for righteousness' sake because his Adonai at the time, his master or his head, his ball at the time, was jealous of him. But because his puffed upness, his pride, or because he felt like, well, you're on the run and I'm not and I'm safe, he felt like he can talk any kind of way to a warrior. And he felt real comfortable and safe. He had, a couple boys with him that he thought he was real cool. But at the end of the day, he's taking something where a brother is coming at you humbly asking for help. But because you're intimidated by him or you're jealous of him, you immediately puff up your chest and have to one up him and show that you're in superiority and that, who are you? I ain't got to do nothing for you because you're scared of the brother. And that's foolish tendencies. Even if you are scared of somebody and they're coming at to you humbly, the smart thing to do would be like, okay, well, I'm going to grant your petition if I'm able to do that on my terms. I'm going to do it on my terms. I'm going to do it in a way that you can't have any excuse to come against me, but I'm still being favorable unto you, but it's under my terms. You're not coming to me, I'm coming to you. Go ahead.
And brother, I have a question here too. The way that Dawid, sent his messengers to speak unto Nabal, how often should we speak to others in that way?
As far as what, asking for help or?
Like in that manner, in that spirit of humility and care and blessing.
Right. For anytime you're asking for help, you definitely want to be coming in humility, but not just when you're asking for help. It says, in the word, condescend to the lowly. Condescend. He doesn't have to be a lowly person, but you meet people at that level to show that, hey, listen, we are brothers, we are family, but at the same time, if there's any way for me to esteem you higher than me, I'm going to place that there. That's just like when you talk to people, you might not necessarily know them, but you call them sir. Yes, sir. No problem. Not like, yes, sir. Like, you some,
errand boy,
shoe shiner or something, but just giving people respect, ma'am, sir, all that. And that's showing that humility. And when you approach somebody in that manner, it's easy to tell what manner of spirit they're in, because if you approach somebody in humility and they're coming at you with some kind of anger or angst, then wait a minute, there's something going on.
Let your peace return to you. And also too, in this generation of fake it till you make it, we have a tendency to only speak that way to people who we feel are high, or like Nabal, he shares sheep, so he got a lot of land to keep all this and all that stuff. So you say, okay, this is someone of posterity, right? So let me come to him. But the thing is that we shouldn't only concentrate that effort of speech to someone who we think is in power or something like that. Right. That same humility of speech and diligence of word and character should go for everyone, right? Because if you don't do that for everyone, that's partiality that you're showing, and it shows a divided heart. It shows double tongue. And it shows that there is partiality in our, and that partiality is iniquity. That's uneven scales. So in order to not fall into iniquity by showing favoritism to someone, make sure that that's your standard for all people, young, old, family, friends. That's just your normal standard, and then it gives you a good way, like you said, give you a good way to judge who really has that spirit. If I'm doing my best within myself to present myself in this spirit, and I put that sound out, I don't get that echo, that something's up, and maybe my peace should return with me.
Right.
Verse 12. This is 1 Samuel 25 and verse 12. So David's young men turned their way and went again and came and told him all those sayings. And David said unto his men, Gird you on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 abode by the stuff. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything, as long as we were conversant with them when we were in the fields. They were a wall unto us, both by night and day, all the while we were with them keeping the sheep.
Now, if you have 600 men that are around you doing your work, that's an army coming down here. And if this army isn't treating you, an army of soldiers,
Nicely.
you're a complete idiot to turn around and try to be disrespectful to the captain of that army.
And rail.
Are you kidding me? 600. I don't think I've been around 600 organized people before. 600 organized people that are being conversant, that are protecting you, that are a wall on both your sides, where they're covering you on all sides at day and night from animals, from robbers, from thieves, from anything. And they're escorting you safely. And all they ask is for some provisions, knowing they could have took your provisions and said, well, we got to feed the men because we getting ready to go to war. But they did it politely. So at this point, we like, man, round up the boys. We coming to deal with this fool.
And brother, the even better part about it's not just any old army, it's commandment. It's a commandment keeping army that stays away from their wives before they go into war, that kept Shabbats and things of that nature, that knew that Yahweh would not bring an army against them on a holy day.
Yeah, brothers killing so many people, so many warriors, it ain't funny. Just one killing many warriors at one time.
And then you have Moshe telling them from their law, smite them in the loin so that they don't get back up.
Right. And keep in mind, he got some of these people from these other nations too, that were outlaws, that were also, because remember he had the Kerethites, he had other people that were enemies of Saul that banded with him because Saul as well. So you got some righteous people, and you got some people that don't give a damn. They'll kill you. They'll kill you behind in a heartbeat. They don't esteem Yahweh like that, but they respect David. And you gonna sit around and you gonna talk smack to these people? The servant was probably scared to come back and say something.
They were probably the ones when they heard the message that we wanted sent. They were like, man, why you talking? Just go up in there, go get your stuff.
Right. You see, did I tell you?
Yeah, they probably said,
You see, they probably was inciting the whole, like, you see all this nice stuff. You need to go up in there. You see,
Yasharal was nice. You see what happened to them. You see what's going on with them. They turn around and stab you in the back. See, we don't do that in the Philistines. In Philistia, in Caphtor. We don't do that. We take what we want.
Take wives, livestock.
Wives and lives. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Now, therefore, no one consider what you will do, for evil is determined against our master and against all his household. For he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him.
So he's like, man, this dude finna get us all killed, man. He finna get us all killed. We can't even. He's so child of a hellion that we can't even talk sense into. Like, do you think that this army is just gonna say okay and turn around and go away? An army that is on the run, that don't really have much options?
A vagabond army. Verse 18. This is 1 Samuel chapter 25 and verse 18. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready dressed and 5 measures of parched corn and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs and laid them on donkeys.
Okay, so she seems rebellious, right? Because her husband's like, man, screw that. So she's rebellious, but she was smart enough that the servant said, let me go talk to this wise woman, because this man is a fool. He's an idiot. So now, you think somebody would have came to Jezebel and said, hey, Jezebel, your husband is about to do something stupid. Let's talk sense. Now they're like, nah, she gonna be right with him. Yeah, that's right. And we should have killed him for asking.
Wow.
Go ahead.
And she said unto her servants, Go on before me. Behold, I come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal. And it was so, as she rode on the donkey, that she came down by the covert of the hill. And behold, David and his men came down against her. And she met them.
So she didn't tell her husband because she knew her husband wasn't going to listen.
No.
If he would listen to wise counsel, then she could go to him and say, listen, baby, you know, this is not, I know you a man,
Mm-hmm.
your chest poked out, I get it. You know, you big daddy, but these killers, and furthermore, you know, I'm scared. For my sake, at least do this. But she knew this guy's an idiot, man. Round up, get 500 raised, get the lows. I ain't even worried about him right now. I got to save my household, my servants, my handmaidens, everything.
Mm. Verse 21. Now David had said, Surely in vain have I kept all this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him. And he has requited me evil for good. So and more also do Elohim unto the enemies of David, if I leave of all that pertain to him by the morning light, any that pisses against the wall.
So I guess when you're talking about pisses against the wall, so I would imagine that would be men and animals and male animals. Anything that pisses against the wall. Anything that don't squat. You know. Wow.
So that basically David said, if I don't do this unto him, may Yahweh do worse unto my enemies. Basically, he said, so and more also do Elohim unto the enemies. So the way that the Nabal treated him, may Yahweh treat all David's enemies if he don't go down there and kill everything that pisses against the wall.
Right. Now, this will get a lot of kind-hearted, kind-natured, you know, the quiet people that, you know, that so friendly and so nice, always doing good. That's how you really piss them off. When they do good to you, kindness, and you repay it with evil, is usually somebody like, wow, I didn't know he can get that angry, because they're always so nice and so kind to people. But we have to understand that just because somebody doesn't repay us righteousness for righteousness doesn't give us the excuse to go rail, you know, tit for tat, rail against somebody. So in his anger, he's doing something that's unrighteous because he's allowing that same spirit that's on Nabal to come onto him. And sometimes we men, we get like that with our temper and our egos, and it takes a righteous woman to quell that fire and quench that fire and say, baby, listen, you're not thinking right now.
Brother, if I could interject right there and tell you how relieved I am to have a woman in my corner to keep me more circumspect. You feel me? Coming into this walk, after a certain point, after going through certain things, I was always in fear of messing up again of my own accord. And it's like having a woman to like help me keep circumspect. And people like to look to criticize, and it's like having a woman there that once they get all the malicious criticism out, it actually becomes constructive. Like when they realize that you're not moved by the malicious criticism, when they get upset and they say, oh, you know, you ain't this, you ain't, like, you know what, fine, maybe I'm not all that. And they're like, you know what, well, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't mean to say that. And because women have an emotional gauge within them, where if a man has malice, they're coming at it. But if a man can get himself into some level of like temperateness, they'll work with that. So then it feels reassuring now that I don't have to rely on my own understanding to keep me right, because like you mentioned, when a man feels a certain type of way, he'll justify wrong behavior, exactly like David is doing right here. Like, right. I have every right to go and kill everything that this man has right now, and I'm gonna do it. Right. And that female essence there is like a yin and yang. So you don't have to be afraid to be macho and a man if you intend on listening to your woman, because she's gonna be an opposing force, not necessarily in a negative way, but in a constructive way to say, look, turn it this way, turn it that way, so you can say, all right, cool. So it's like a moon around the earth, you know, here, let your tide go this way and nourish the fish and go this way. Right. It really helps. Just like if you have a phone or a computer, if you're doing a big job, Sometimes the computer can't handle, rendering a 6 gig, a 6 gig picture or a 6 gig movie. You're gonna need dual processor, so you get an extra processor in there. So I feel so much safer deliberating big jobs with a second mind there, to help me. And it's unified by having Yahweh in the middle of it. So it's not just worldly knowledge. You can say, no, we're submitting to Yah, we're submitting to His laws and His commandments. Now let me hear what you have to say.
Right. If teacher,
indeed,
and if she learns and studies on her own, and she learns what righteousness is, so she can be that gauge. But if she's not interested in righteousness, then she's going to be emotional. She's going to do what may feel right to her, which could be right or may not be right. It's either way. But it says, that's why it's better for man to have two, because when he walks, if he falls and he's by himself, there's nobody to help him up. But when he has his rib and he falls, there's somebody to help prevent the fall. There's somebody to help him get back up from the fall before he just sit on the ground and wallow in his fall. So it is there was obviously, when Yah said it's not meet that man be alone, that he needed that partner. And the sheep would have been like, man, we good for you. Don't do that. The sheep wouldn't have been good enough. Man, shut up, you little sheep. Man, shut up. You know what I'm saying? But a woman got something where, you can't get from sheep, that you make you listen just a little bit more. A little bit more.
But if I could put another analogy, it's just like a planet. It's one thing to just be floating off in space, but when you have a gravity there to keep you in line, you understand, you don't have to worry about spinning out of control, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. But when you have a balance, a shared understanding, you don't have to worry about going wrong as long as Yah is there. Because when Yah's not there, we have Jezebel and her man. You start ignoring and start compromising, you're gonna see corruption easily and quickly.
Right. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 23. This is 1 Samuel chapter 25 and verse 23. And when Abigail saw Dawid, she hasted and lighted off the donkey and fell before Dawid on her face and bowed herself to the ground and fell at his feet and said, Upon me, my master, upon me let this iniquity be, and let your handmaid, I pray you, speak in your audience and hear the words of your handmaid.
Okay, so why is she calling him her master when her husband is her master?
Just the utmost respect, because right now everybody's life is
For more than that ain't just sucking up. This man is the next anointed king.
Indeed.
Samuel anointed him. He is the next on the throne. This is from a prophet of Yahweh. So she understands this is our master. This is our king right here. And even though he in a bad situation right now, this is who Yahweh anointed. Much respect. Even Dawid had that kind of respect for Saul. Even though Saul was acting a fool, he said, man, I can't put my hand on Yahweh's anointed. Go ahead.
Verse 25. Let not my master, I pray you, regard this man of Belial, even Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But your handmaid saw not the young men of your master whom you did send.
So his name literally means fool. Folly. So you got to be careful. The names are important. So every time you calling him, you saying fool, folly. Come here, folly, come here. So we got to be careful of these names that we give our children and these names that we accept when, we get immersed and we take on a new name and we like, oh, Mara, that sounds like a nice name.
Actually had an ex name.
Mara. Oh man, that's a beautiful name. Bitter. Hey, Bitter. Come here, Bitter. So we got to be careful and look and understand that when a servant's job changes, their name changes as well. So you got to be careful the kind of spirit that you're grabbing a hold of when we going in these books and just trying to get back our culture and just grab anything. Do a little bit of research.
They also said that they also mean worthless fellow.
Wow. Verse 26. Now therefore, my master, as Yahweh lives, and as your soul lives, seeing Yahweh has withhold you from coming to shed blood, and from avenging yourself with your own hand, now let your enemies, and they that seek evil to my master, be as Nabal. And now this blessing which your handmaid has brought unto my master, let it be given unto the young men that follow my master. I pray you, forgive the trespass of your handmaid, for Yahweh will certainly make my master a sure house, because my master fights the battle of Yahweh, and evil has not been found in you all your days.
She know what time it is. She knows the walk and the righteousness of this man. And she also know that song about tens of thousands.
Oh yeah, all the women knew that
She
song.
knew that. All the women sang it in a chorus. Can you imagine that? What that does to a brother, man? You got a chorus of women, of all the women of your nation, singing, David, David, tens of thousands. And Saul is thousands too. Saul killed thousands. But David, David, tens of thousands. Man,
It's hard to stay home.
it's very hard to stay humble, but yet he stayed in righteousness all the days of his life. Now, obviously, there was some other days that were going to come later, but all the days of his life to this point, and he fought the battles of Yahweh. She knew that this man went against Goliath for a nation as a little boy.
He was a little bit of a Mr. Take Your Girl. But we'll save that for another.
Go ahead.
Verse 29. Yet a man is risen to pursue you and to seek your soul. But the soul of my master shall be bound in the bundle of life with Yahweh your Elohim, and the souls of your enemies. Them shall he sling out as out of the middle of a sling.
So she knows how to talk to him in his lingo, just like when the woman walks up to you and be like, yeah, you came through like, you know, like that buzzer beater in the fourth quarter. You be like, man, how she watched that game? Man, I like this girl. And then she's condescending to him, lowering her estate. Your handmaid, your servant. I'm a servant of the Most High, and you are the anointed of the Most High. So I'm your servant. You are my master. And she's esteeming him higher than his righteousness is at the time. Surely, you know, praise Yah that you're such a righteous man that you're not coming here to shed blood, because you have done innocence your whole life. And everybody knows that Yahweh is going to avenge anybody that comes. So forgive my trespass. She's taking responsibility for her whole house. The husband is sanctified by the wife, and the wife is sanctified by the husband. So this is a virtuous woman that understands that concept. Now, how long do you think Yahweh is going to allow a virtuous woman to be covered by a fool? Go
Verse
ahead.
30. And it shall come to pass when Yahweh shall have done to my master according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and shall have appointed you ruler over Yasharal, that this shall be no grief unto you, nor offense of heart unto my master, either that you have shed blood causeless, or that my master has avenged himself. But when Yahweh shall have dealt well with you, my master, then remember your handmaid.
Then she threw that out there. You know, after Yahweh handles all of the business and he fulfills all that he has promised you, remember your handmaid. Now, I didn't say exactly what to remember. I just put it out there just to remember me. I didn't say in what manner, but remember your boy, remember your girl, remember your home girl. You remember your home girl. Remember your home girl.
The
You was
craziest
about to do
part-
wickedness, but I stopped you. Okay.